this is Brian, screenfiles.com in review. And what I'm looking at today is 2024's Trap, directed by M. Night Shyamalan. I tend to watch a lot of different types of movies. I have my preferences to be sure, but I'll watch virtually anything if I'm interested in the moment. For instance, I haven't seen the Barbie movie yet, though that's not because I think it's a bad movie. And in fact, I think it's probably pretty good for what it is. My thing is, having grown up with sisters, it's not something I want to like, and so I don't watch it. I'm deliberately creating a scenario where I don't have to enjoy it. Once again, that's not to say it's a bad movie or a movie not worth seeing, only that I do not want to like it. It's childish, I know, just the way I'm built. That being said, liking many types of genres, I understand that they each exist in their own particular world with its own rules. So I can watch a fantasy film, and as long as it follows the rules that exist within the world of that particular film, I have a good time with it. I can watch a horror film, I can watch a cop film. As long as they exist within the worlds they exist in, it's fine. I can enjoy them equally in some respects. Which brings me to Trap, which is directed by M. Night Shyamalan. This is a movie that, within the world it exists in, makes no sense. The plot of it is so ludicrous. And what's worse, it just gets more ludicrous as it goes on. It is the weirdest movie. I've never seen anything quite like it, especially for a movie that was released by a major studio. It is just the bizarrest movie. If you're not aware, it revolves around a man named Cooper, played by Josh Hartnett. Very well, by the way. He is a creepy looking dude at points. But he's also a serial killer. And so he happens to be taking his daughter to a concert to see Lady Raven, played by, I believe, one of M. Night Shyamalan's daughters. And the police decide to use this moment as a perfect opportunity to catch the serial killer, known as the Butcher in the press, by setting up a trap. This is quite possibly one of the dumbest ideas I've ever heard of, because you're going to trap one man. So why would you do that in a place with, I don't know, 30,000 other people? Though the movie, to be fair, explains that there are only, let's say, 3,000 people actually suspected of the crime. So, once again, not only are you endangering the lives of everyone in that arena, but the odds of you finding this person are so remote. It's such a strange movie. And what happens later in the movie is even stranger. And I don't mean strange in an interesting and thought-provoking way. I mean strange in the sense of, what are you talking about? Why did you write this? And why does nothing make any sense? We go later in the film, and Josh Hartnett's serial killer escapes the stadium by essentially forcing Lady Raven to let him leave with her. So he does this, him and his daughter, and Lady Raven somehow is now a major part of this movie. Why is she a major part of this movie? She should not have been involved at all with this aspect of the film. And the only reason I think this is the case is more than likely because she's M. Night Shyamalan's daughter. Nothing else makes sense in the context of this movie. But in any case, Lady Raven takes him to his home, where his family stays. It's around this point that we learn that Cooper's wife called the police because she suspected that her husband was acting suspiciously. So clarify this for me. If the police suspected him as the serial killer, why didn't they, I don't know, arrest him as a person of interest? That's not even to say that they could have held him. but at least do something that's not so ridiculously outlandish as what they actually did. Nothing about this movie makes sense. There is a scene towards the end of the movie where Cooper is trapped. That theme runs throughout this movie by the FBI profiler, and he's tricked and captured. They tase him a lot. Now, I can't speak for anyone else's knowledge of the police, but you mean to tell me you have someone who is literally butchering people, as in cutting up into very small pieces, and all they're going to do is tase him. Now, never mind, the tasing didn't work the first 3 or 4 times, and no one decided, let's just shoot this guy. Once again, I can't speak from how you approach these things, but from what I've seen in video and in the news about the police, they aren't exactly reluctant to shoot somebody. And in fact, they seem to take joy in doing so. So the idea that they're just tasing this guy makes no sense, except in the context of M. Night Shyamalan at the end of his movie wanted something to happen, which I won't tell you. It won't be satisfying, but I won't tell you nonetheless. This movie is so frustrating because, and I'm entirely guessing here, I think what he was trying to do was make his film less conventional than perhaps a more traditional story about a serial killer would have been. And if that were his goal, he succeeded. I wouldn't say admirably, but he certainly succeeded. The problem is, nothing makes sense. Nobody acts in a fashion that a human would act in. Even the FBI profiler, the way it's used in this movie doesn't make any sense, because I suspect that FBI profiling is not quite the exact science that this movie makes it out to be. In other words, you're basing it upon certain factors, such as the people who are murdered, where the murders happen, the type of people likely to do a certain thing. So there is science behind it, but there's a lot of guesswork as well. Therefore, it is not an exact science. The way this movie treats profiling, you would think it's akin to math in the exact nature of it, which is just nonsense, I suspect. So, that being said, it's a well-shot movie. It's even well-acted. Oh, and speaking of acting, by the way, what is with M. Night Shyamalan and cameos? He puts himself in his own movies all the time, and I don't know why he does it. The roles tend to be relatively small. They're speaking parts, but relatively small. And it seems to be an ego thing as far as I can tell. And keep in mind, ego is what virtually killed this man's career. I don't know if he's going in that direction again, but he needs to just relax with that. Now, it's not exactly unusual for a director of a movie to appear in their own movie. Alfred Hitchcock did it all the time, but Alfred Hitchcock did it in a very subtle manner. And in fact, I recall seeing it happen in The Birds. If you weren't aware of who Alfred Hitchcock was, you might have missed it. And in fact, even if you did know who Alfred Hitchcock was, you might have missed it, because it happened so quick. M. Night Shyamalan always seems to feel the need to be in front of the camera, and he doesn't bring anything to the roles he pops up in. He's just there. Trapped was probably the most frustrating movie I've seen in many a day. It's well shot, it's well lit, it is well acted. It's just so confoundingly written. And I don't want to even say badly written, though as far as I can see, it makes no sense. It's just frustrating the way it works. By my reckoning, it's trying too hard to be what it isn't. Namely, this confusing, twisty type of story. Trap is simply a story about a hunt for a serial killer. If it were approached in that fashion and played relatively straight, it might have been a really tight, taut little thriller. Instead, it's just a mess. I can't tell you what universe this movie exists in. I've seen science fiction movies, I've seen horror movies that no matter how outlandish their initial premise is, at the end of the day, make more sense than this movie. So what do you think? This is Brian with ScreenFiles.com and Review. If you agree, disagree, let me know down below. And as usual, consider a like, follow, or buy me a coffee.